Hi, unprecedented times that we live in, huh? Really, really tough times that we find ourselves living in, that we exist in. Um, we're living through the most. We're going through a lot individually and as the human race, in in a nutshell. We're living through wars and violence. The most recent war in Ukraine. Not that I'm taking any side, but there are a lot of people suffering there directly and indirectly. We're living through gender-based violence, we're living through immorality, we're living in a society full of broken families, broken hearts, disappointed people. We're living in a society full of poor people, poverty ravaging families, ravaging people, and we're living in a time full of diseases, COVID-19, cancer, HIV and AIDS, you name them, all have taken turns in harassing people, and death has just surrounded us in almost all sides. And that has left us really troubled, and mentally, a lot of us are shaken. Issue of mental health is a very, very huge issue. It is a giant in the room that we should all try and address. And I believe it's a multidisciplinary uh, problem that we have to deal with in various capacities. As individuals, we have to help in fighting mental health problems. There are people who are in the medical field who have dedicated their lives in fighting mental health issues, and there are, you know, various structures and institutions whom their mandate is to deal with this mental health issue. But I believe one of the keys to solving our mental health jigsaw is our relationship with God. How we relate to God is a huge, huge component of facing tomorrow. Come, let us share a few inferences from the Bible. Just imagine if you would have a vision or you'd become a messenger of God, and the message you would be called upon to share wasn't the message that people really appreciated or people liked. How would that experience be if you become a social outcast and people hated you from a tender age, from your teenagehood? People didn't like you, not because of your own choosing, but because of a message that God had given you. That would lead to probably the worst depression possible. But that's the life of Jeremiah. Jeremiah was not liked by a lot of people. He was called to be a prophet at a very young age. Some estimates say Jeremiah was called to be a prophet at the age of 17. And not only was he young when he was called to be a prophet, but he had a very unpopular message that he had to share to Israel at that time. Not only wasn't his message popular, but he faced huge, huge opposition. For example, in Jeremiah chapter 28, there are a lot of examples of the opposition that Jeremiah faced. But in Jeremiah 28, for example, there's a prophet, or rather, a self proclaimed prophet by the name Hananiah, who decides to, I don't know if he decided or this spiritual, the devil decided to use him while in the temple to prophesy a wrong message. And Jeremiah is there, and um, he stands to dispute the account or the prophecy of that prophet. And eventually, the message of the Lord comes to Jeremiah to tell Hananiah that because he has decided to mislead Israel, he will um, he will die that year. And, eventually, Hananiah dies. But it serves to show how much Jeremiah was opposed. Historical theologians have named Jeremiah the weeping prophet because I believe of the pain that he had to face. And his message was unpopular at the time, so much so that at some point he was thrown into a sewer, which some people suggest was to armpit level. Just imagine being a sewer that high. That's the life of Jeremiah. Very painful life. But what does God say to Jeremiah? What is the message to Jeremiah that prepares him or helps him face his painful life? We often quote Jeremiah 1 verse 5. Before I formed you in your mother's womb, I knew you. I had ordained you to be a prophet to my people. What a message to what a life, a painful life. But God says, I knew you and have a plan for you. And God says in Jeremiah 29, verse 11 to 13, I know the plans I have for you, plans of a hope and a future, plans not of evil, but plans of prosperity. This message comes to an Israel that is under bondage under the Babylonian kingdom. And God is saying to his people, I know the plans I have for you. God is speaking through a prophet whose life is full of pain. And God is speaking to a people who are under bondage and saying, I know the plans I have for you. Look, our lives might not be so good. You might be living through pain, through diseases, under difficult circumstances. We live under a wide range of circumstances that I may not really understand or comprehend or have never come close to. But one thing I know, the God we serve has a plan for us. And it is through faith that we can live a positive life. We can have positivity in life because we trust Him who holds the future. Take, for example, Job. Job had wealth, had a beautiful family. Probably he enjoyed life with his family. But Job's life came crashing down in a single day. In just a day, Job moved from this man who had everything to a man who had totally nothing. And Job, in Job chapter 3, moans his life. He goes on to curse the day he was born, curses the breast that breastfed her, curses the knees that upheld her. Job is not happy while he was alive. He wishes he would have died at infancy without seeing the light of day. But Job is confronted by God in Job 38 and 39, the two chapters. And obviously, in chapter 40 as well, they have a dialogue. But in these two chapters, God is questioning Job. And he's saying to Job, do you understand how I operate? Trust me. I know what I'm doing. Essentially, that's what God is telling Job, because he questions him and says, I want to ask you questions. Do you know what the earth hangs on? What balances the forces of life? Do you know the physics, the basis of the physics? In today's advancement and understanding, we have come to explain, the physics, the chemistry, and the biology that lives in and around us. But we have not come to explain the power behind it. And we can only know through faith that it is God. And God asked Job this question, Job 38, verse 18. Hast thou perceived the breadth of the earth? Declare if thou knowest it all. God is asking Job, do you know everything? Do you understand everything? Have you come to comprehend life? And Job says, no, I have not. And in all this, God is trying to say to Job, you can only trust me because you do not know anything. In fact, in Job chapter 42, Job confesses and says this in verse 3, who is he that hideth counsel without knowledge? Therefore have I uttered that I understood not, and things too wonderful for me, which I knew not. Sometimes life gets so difficult and we curse our own lives and lose trust in God. It is in those moments where we speak things that we do not really understand. But only through faith can we hold the hand of the invincible and believe that though we might not see through tomorrow, though we might not understand what tomorrow holds, we might trust and believe Him who holds today. This will play a vital part in us living positive lives and possibly conquering the mental health scare that we live in the economics, in the medicine, in the social aspects that we do not really comprehend or understand. We can hold on to the hand of God, and that hand of God will lead us beyond the open door. Job, Job died. Jeremiah died. In fact, Jeremiah was martyred in Egypt. But God still had a plan for this man. In Hebrews 11, verse 40, Paul writes about these heroes of faith. And when he comes to verse 40, he says to the church in the Hebrews, God had a better plan for these people. God has a better plan for us. We might not understand or comprehend life, but there is something better for us in heaven. Here on earth, things might not go well, but there is something better for us. I don't know what you're living through, but there is something better. It is amazing that Paul did not write about himself in Hebrews chapter 11, because I think he's one of the heroes of faith. But he writes about his own account of faith when he's writing to the young pastor Timothy in 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 7. And he says to him, I have fought a good fight. I have finished my course, and I have kept the faith. What is important to Paul is keeping the faith. In these difficult times that we live in, keep the faith. Keep the faith. It's interesting how Paul phrases his writing, because he is putting his life in the context of a fight. He's putting his life in the context of a race, not a simple stroll in the park. He could have said, I've finished the walk, I've finished the stroll, I've just cruised through. But Paul says, I've fought the fight. He's living in under duress conditions. Life is not so simple, but he has kept the faith. We ought to have the faith in God so that we conquer the mental problems that we face, because we will face tough situations. We will face pain, suffering in life. But if we hold on by faith to the hand of God, we can live with optimism. We can live with hope and faith and courage. Joshua was called upon in a difficult time to lead Israel. But God says to him, be strong and courageous and do not be afraid. All that God is calling us to do is trust in Him through difficult times, through painful times, through these unprecedented times. We can hold on to the hand of God, because He giveth more strength when the burdens grow greater. He addeth more grace to us. To added affliction, he added his favor. God gives and gives and gives again. I don't know about tomorrow. It may bring pain, suffering, but I know who holds tomorrow, and I know who holds my head. We can live with optimism if we trust and believe in God. I lived in a boarding setup some part of my life. I was never in boarding myself, but my father was a headmaster at a boarding school, and a lot of things happened at boarding school. It was tough things that happened at boarding school. But I think what kept people going, it's not the only thing, but the joy of going home at the end of boarding term is unmatched. You know, we should look forward to the day when our boarding life here on earth is over. We're here just to learn lessons, we're here just to prepare for heaven. But soon our boarding life is going to come to a close. And we can look forward with faith and hope to the glorious appearing of Christ, the blessed hope. We can look forward to it with smiles on our face and with joy and energy and positivity to life. There's joy that is coming. There's joy coming. There's hope in life. There are better days ahead of us. Don't lose hope. Don't lose heart. There are better days ahead. And though we live in pain right now, we can trust in whom we believe in. We can trust that God will take us through life and its challenges. We can be rest assured that He cares for us, He loves us, and has our best interests in His mind. It is the character of God to love, and He loves us, cares about us. And so don't lose heart. Don't be disheartened. Don't lose your mind in this pain. There's a God up above, and He loves all of us. God bless you. Hi, thanks for watching this video to the end. I hope you found it really beneficiary. Please like and subscribe, and let's keep the love going. Remember to take care of those God has given to our care, and let us love our neighbors and love the Lord with all our hearts and soul and mind. God keep you. See you next time at God's speed. Thank you.